Some cities are just built from stone and raw ambition. But every once in a while, a city gets built from an idea. And today, we're diving into one of those truly rare places, Alexandria. This was a city designed not just to rule an empire, but to literally build the future.
I mean, that's a huge question, right? So how do you even begin to answer it? Well, today we're going to tackle it by looking back at one of the most ambitious, most influential urban projects in all of history. We are going to break down the original blueprint for ancient Alexandria.
All right, let's get into it. And you've got to understand, this was not just any city. We're talking about the place that gave us the Lighthouse of Pharos, one of the seven wonders of the ancient world. It's where the legendary Universal Library was born, where the foundations of geometry were laid out, and where someone for the first time figured out how big our planet is with stunning accuracy. It was, no exaggeration, the intellectual engine of the ancient world. Okay, so to really get how Alexandria became this revolutionary place, we have to start with the guy who dreamed it all up, Alexander the Great. And his vision, it went way beyond just conquering stuff. He wanted to create a totally new kind of global city. So the story kicks off in the 332 BCE. Alexander rolls into Egypt, and he's not just there to conquer. He's actually pretty smart about it, respecting the local traditions. That very same year, he picks this perfect spot right on the coast and says, "This is it. This is where we build." Now, he never actually got to see it fully bloom, but man, the seed he planted, that became his most lasting legacy for sure. And this was a massive, deliberate break from the past. For thousands of years, Egyptian power was all about the Nile, looking inward. Alexander comes along and just completely flips the script. He designs this Greek-style city to face outward, looking to the Mediterranean, basically opening Egypt up to the entire known world. And that really gets to the heart of it. Alexandria's location, that was its superpower. It was literally engineered to be a bridge, a central hub for everything, goods, different cultures, and, most importantly, ideas, flowing between Africa, Europe, and Asia. This whole grand design was a cornerstone of what we call the Hellenistic Age. The big idea was to take Greek culture, the language, the philosophy, the art, and use it as a kind of operating system to unite this huge, diverse new empire. And Alexandria, it was meant to be the shining capital city of this brand new, interconnected world. So, after Alexander dies unexpectedly, his general, Ptolemy, takes charge in Egypt. And he and the dynasty that followed him, the Ptolemies, they didn't just follow Alexander's blueprint, they supercharged it. They took this strategic port city and transformed it into a full-blown factory for creating knowledge. And the engine room of this knowledge factory was a place called the Malcyon. Now, when you hear that, don't picture a dusty old museum. This was something totally new and radical, a research institute paid for by the government. Think of it like a modern, top-tier university campus smashed together with a think tank. It was basically the Bell Labs of the ancient world, where the smartest people around were paid just to think, to debate, and to discover. And right next door, connected to the museum, was the place Alexandria is most famous for, the legendary Great Library. And its mission, wow, it was so ambitious, it's almost hard to believe. They wanted to get a copy of every single scroll, every book in the entire world. They were relentless. I mean, they'd search ships that came into the harbor, take any books they found, copy them, and sometimes they'd only give the copy back. So as you can imagine, this kind of place was an absolute magnet for geniuses. You had Euclid, the guy who literally wrote the book on geometry. We still use his stuff today. You had Herophilus, who was a pioneer in studying human anatomy. And get this, you had Aristarchus, who almost 2,000 years before Copernicus came up with the wild idea that the Earth actually revolves around the sun. Incredible. And this wasn't just, abstract theoretical stuff. They applied it. Take the head librarian, a guy named Eratosthenes. Just by looking at the angle of shadows in two different cities and using some basic geometry, he calculated the circumference of the entire planet. And his number was ridiculously close to the actual measurement. That's the power of what they were doing in Alexandria. Now, what fueled all this intellectual fire? Well, it was the city's diversity. You had the Greek and Macedonian ruling class, of course. You had the native Egyptian population handling labor, agriculture, and their own deep religious traditions. And you had a huge and influential Jewish community, vital for trade and for translation. They're the ones who created the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible. But let's not get too romantic about it. It wasn't a perfect melting pot. It was a very strict social hierarchy with the Greeks on top, and that naturally led to a lot of tension.
But, golden ages like this, they just don't last forever. So what went wrong? How did this unbelievable center of knowledge just fade away?
Well, first things first, we gotta clear something up. That popular story you've probably heard, the library burning down in one big, catastrophic fire, it's mostly a myth. The real story is a lot more complicated and honestly, kind of more tragic. It was more like a death by 1,000 cuts.
See, the decline happened slowly, over hundreds of years. It really started with the Roman conquest in 30 BCE, which stripped Alexandria of its status as a royal capital. Then came centuries of political infighting, really nasty religious conflicts, and economic changes as trade routes shifted. Each one of these things was like a little chip, slowly breaking down the foundations that made the city so great.
But here's the amazing part. Even though the city itself declined, its ideas never died. The very idea of a universal library, the model for a research university, the geometry of Euclid, these concepts kept going. They echoed down through Roman times, into the Islamic Golden Age, and right into the European Renaissance, becoming the bedrock of our modern world. And that, right there, is the ultimate takeaway. Alexandria proved that a city can be more than just buildings and streets. It can be engineered. If you take the right location, add a ton of ambition, mix in a diverse group of people, and, this is key, you actively support curiosity, you don't just end up with a city. You create a machine for generating ideas. A machine that can literally change the world.
So that leaves us with one final question to chew on. When we look at our world today, with all of its challenges and all of its amazing technology, what are the lessons we can take from Alexandria? What are the ingredients we need to find and put together to build the next great center of knowledge for our future?